Good evening, everyone. I am Jesus Garcia, education specialist with the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum and host of AZ Illustrated Nature. As millions of people prepare for the Thanksgiving holiday next week, we'll talk about the impact and the importance of native foods in agriculture, our diets, and the environment. We'll take you to a farm in central Arizona that is trying to grow more local varieties of crops, and you'll hear about a woman's passion for different breeds of turkeys. But first, here is a look at today's top stories.
This morning, desert bighorn sheep were released in the Santa Catalina Mountains in hopes of reestablishing the population, Laura Palmisano reports.
31 desert bighorn sheep were released into the Push Ridge Wilderness Monday morning. Mark Hart with the Arizona Game and Fish Department says the sheep disappeared from the area in the late 1990s.
The habitat has improved tremendously for bighorn sheep. The bullock and aspen fires in the early 2000s cleared up a lot of the brush and dense understory that tended to conceal predators, specifically mountain lions. In addition, we now have state-of-the-art technology like GPS satellite collars that enable us to track movements and mortality. So if they're in distress or in a bad spot, we'll know.
Hart says the department plans to release an additional 60 sheep over the next 2 years. I'm Laura Palmisano, Arizona Public Media.
The state of Arizona is hoping the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals will stop the Tohono O'odham Nation's planned casino in Glendale. But now Arizona officials are putting their own appeal on hold. The U.S. Supreme Court is preparing to rule on a Michigan case involving the sovereign immunity of a tribe. The outcome of that case could have a significant effect on the Tohono O'odham question, so all sides are waiting to see what happens. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
Millions of Americans are getting ready to celebrate Thanksgiving next week. Many will enjoy the abundance of food and drink in our society. But what about giving thought to the historical and environmental significance of their dishes? Tonight, we'll expand on this topic by learning about native and heirloom species, from corn and beans to tomatoes and turkeys. We begin with a visit to Ramona Farms, north of Tucson, where tradition and culture contribute to the crops. Tony Paniagua and photojournalist Martin Rubio have that story.
If you've seen one cornfield, you may think you've seen them all, but don't tell that to Ramona Button and her husband Terry. Ramona Button is an Akimel O'odham Native American who farms on the Gila River Indian community in central Arizona. Here, she's continuing an ageless tradition of blessing the corn, an heirloom species in this case that has been handed down by her ancestors.
This is the 60-day Pima corn. It actually takes 60 days for it to be ready, so you better be ready. We usually are. Try to pick it in the milk stage because it enhances all the flavors.
Button and her husband are growing the corn and other plants as part of a family operation that began decades ago. The couple met in South Dakota where Ramona was working as a nurse, but later they moved to her old stomping grounds. This area around the Sakatan Mountains in Pinal County is where Ramona would tag along with her father Francisco while he tended his gardens. She says she began following in his footsteps when she was only 4 years old.
I grew up on some of these foods, and he said these are the only foods that will be very healthy for you in growing up. And so that was the tepary beans, the Indian corn, and the chilies, the melons, the squash.
Francisco planted an appreciation for the land and its bounty in his little girl, and those sentiments live on in the couple's operations. While most of their income comes from commercial crops such as chickpeas, cotton, and alfalfa, Ramona and Terry are trying to increase their acreage of native crops. This includes the corn and different types of beans.
These beans are the beans that's native to the Sonoran Desert. It's common and was grown by the O'odham peoples from the Tohono O'odham and the Akimel O'odham. They're known as the Boff. And this is the black tepary bean. It's also known in English as the tepary bean.
Terry Button also comes from a farming background, and he says there are many benefits to growing native whenever possible. The use of less water is a primary example, but native plants are also more accustomed to the heat and other threats. They have evolved with the surrounding insects, soil, weather, and disease, which can be much more detrimental to exotic plants.
I think they're important to keep around, not only because of their healthy benefits, but because of their survival characteristics or survival traits that someday might be the key that we need to be able to reach in and take some of that genetic material to reintroduce some of this vigor back into the commercial strains of crops to prevent famine in the future.
Word has been spreading about these and other ancient food sources, which are now available in today's modern world. A nearby supermarket, perhaps, or as easily as ordering online. But Ramona Button maintains that she is trying to grow much more than a business. She hopes to provide inspiration and reflection, make people think about their present-day dietary choices, and have them consider the benefits of the past.
All that I want to do is just to bring the natural foods back to the people and everyone.
Not all foods are alike, even though they may appear very similar to the average person.
We continue the conversation about local, native, and heirloom species with a couple of guests. Melissa Cruz Peoples is the collection manager at Native Seed Search, and Michael Chamberlain is the horticulture director at Tucson Botanical Gardens. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
So Melissa, talking about the concept that many farms are starting to go to a traditional style of farming, and one example is Ramona Farms. I understand there's connections between Native Seed Search and Ramona Farms.
Yes, I'm a huge supporter of Ramona Farms and the type of work they're doing. Ramona had started with a few seeds from her father, but at Native Seed Search we were able to supplement the seeds that they had for tepary beans, white Sonora wheat, and some of the traditional corn varieties to actually begin their farm enterprise. And so we're happy to support them, and we purchase and sell their products at Native Seed Search and have similar partnerships with other indigenous farmers in Arizona.
Great, and before we move on to the rest of the questions and talk about the things that you brought today to show us, let's clarify a little bit the word heirloom, because we know about native and we know about local, we hear that a lot, but sometimes the word heirloom gets people off guard.
Yeah, so heirloom in reference to agriculture and seed varieties is essentially meaning varieties that have a long history. They've been passed from generation to generation and been saved. In many cases, they're very adapted to the area where they have been grown and saved. And so the case of Arizona, most heirloom crops are very drought tolerant, use less water, and are able to thrive in our hot, sunny conditions. And so heirlooms are basically varieties that have a long history of being saved.
Great, and Native Seed Search being a seed bank, so
Yes.
it's basically a great place to find heirlooms, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And in contrast, Michael, of course, Tucson Botanical Garden being a great institution here in Tucson, and we have a combination of those things. We have some heirlooms there too, but also a lot of native species. And I understand Native Seed Search started kind of at least living at Tucson Botanical Gardens in the early stages of the organization, and then eventually they grew out and moved out to another locations. But so of course TBG, as often we refer to, has a lot of native plants.
Right, and when talking about native plants, it's important to qualify the region that one is talking about for native plants. So we can talk about plants native to the state of Arizona, or plants native to the Sonoran Desert, which would be just part of Arizona, but also part of California and a part of Mexico as well. Or we can talk about plants that are native just to the Tucson Valley. But once we determine what region we're talking about for native plants, the term is used for plants that occur there naturally, basically wild plants in the region. And this is of interest to people because many of these native plants are really good bets for growing at home. They're adapted to our region. And also many people want to perhaps steer away from some non-native plants which can become invasive or have other attributes they're not looking for.
Great, and actually I would like to come back here to the table. We have this great example. It's always good to have a visual, and sometimes the visuals can be actually delicious. Some of them can be great, not only pleasing to the eye, but also great to eat. And Michael, why don't you start telling us a little bit about the first plant that we have here on the table, which is a very unique, very artistic-looking plant for many people.
Yeah, this is a devil's claw, and this is the dried seed pod of that devil's claw. And this was actually domesticated by native peoples. It was native here, but it was then bred a bit further in order to get the black fibers out of it, to make more of these black fibers, which are used in weaving. And they're used to contrast with other color fibers that are used in weaving. Also, the seeds within this can be edible, and the fruit as well when it's very young.
Great, and of course you talked about some native plants being domesticated in a way or selected, which is absolutely fascinating. Melissa, tell us a little bit about corn. We have this unusual looking corn here, very dark looking corn.
It's a type of flower corn. It's a blue flower corn, and this particular one is from the Hopi Reservation in northeast Arizona. And it's ground to make a fine cornmeal that's used to make different kinds of breads and things. And so this is a great example of arid-adapted crop varieties. This particular ear was grown at our farm in Patagonia, where the Native Seed Search farm is located, and it was never watered once. It grew from March until July, when it started to dry down. And it did get a few monsoon rains towards the end of its life, but it grew on soil moisture alone of what was kept in the soil. And so it's a great example of how local heritage crop varieties are really adapted to our specific environments that we have here.
And here's another word, the word heritage is often used a lot with combined with heirloom, meaning this sense of place that gets created here in the region based on those crops that are part of the culture. And when we combine these crops and the culture of the region, can you tell us a little bit about the programs that you guys have at Native Seed Search?
Yeah, so we are not only interested in preserving the seeds themselves, but we want to preserve the traditions, the food culture in our region of the Southwest, the stories and the songs, and the about the food we eat too.
Well, another food that we have right in front here, Michael, is a nice little plate here of choyas. Tell us a little bit about what kind of choya is and what part of the plant is it?
These are the buds of the choya plant. So these are the young buds that would later develop and open up into flowers, but these are harvested before then, and they are edible. Often they're eaten when they're still fresh, when they're still succulent and green, and they can also be dried and then later rehydrated and eaten later.
Are there any programs at Tucson Botanical Gardens that, in terms of education, that people get to learn more about the native crops?
We do have quite a few classes there, as well as a demonstration garden which illustrates two different farming techniques. One, the canal system that was historically used around Phoenix, and the other being the terraced system that has been used on hillsides. And it contrasts these two farming techniques used by native peoples.
And of course, there's been always a connection between Tucson Botanical Gardens and Native Seed Search. I understand, at least in the cultural gardens, you have seeds that come from Native Seed Search.
Yeah, Native Seed Search is our source for these plants that we grow there.
One of the programs we have is for things like the Tucson Botanical Garden and other demonstration gardens or community gardens, is we have a seed grant program where people can apply to get seeds to plant in gardens for demonstration for their community. Lots of school gardens applying can get seeds from Native Seed Search for those.
And another thing that I also remember from a long time ago, that native peoples throughout the region also get seeds free.
Yes, that's our biggest program, and what we like to support is our collection comes from the indigenous people of the region, and every household is eligible for free seeds from Native Seed Search. And that could be seed packets for gardens, or farmers who have larger plots of land, like Ramona Farms, can get bulk amounts of seeds or lots of seeds to start a larger farm endeavor too.
Great, and of course now if we look at this squash here, beautiful colors, tell us about the varieties of crops that you have. You can start with the squash, but everything else you have a great variety of seeds of every particular species.
Yeah. So we have over 40 different species in the Native Seed Search collection. Most of the collection is corn, beans, and squash, which are the primary important crops to people in their area. Squash are very diverse. There's several different species of squash. There aren't just pumpkins and things, and many squash, such as this one, can be eaten when it's young and immature. You can eat the flowers, you can eat the young leaves, or you can eat it and store it for several months. And so this is a Navajo squash variety that I know can be stored for 18 months or more. So that makes it very desirable for that reason too.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to planting, let's say a garden here in Tucson, what are you think the pros and cons, whether you want to plant a heirloom plant, historic heritage plant, or something ornamental that may not even be from here? Michael, how do you...
those are big decisions. They kind of go in different directions. So a lot of it would depend on whether you want to grow your own food as part of your garden. And an ornamental garden is usually more for landscaping, for defining the space and creating the space that you would be living in. These cultivated plants, which are grown for food, are very short-lived. And so they're generally not used for landscaping, which are longer-term growing plants. There is a little bit of crossover. There are some shrubs like jojoba, which produces an edible seed. But where people plant jojoba in the landscape, usually principally as a plant that'll be a divider, that you may want shade, you may want a screening plant. Where you plant these plants will be usually more of a garden setting. That they do require water. You may use a water harvesting technique where you shape your garden area to help funnel in rainwater and grow them up until they set fruit or become edible. Then you harvest them. And
well, of course, yeah, all those things are a consideration: water harvesting and shading and food again. So thank you very much for coming and talking to us about all the different cultural traits that we have here in Tucson, and we're taking advantage through our palates. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The devastation from the deadly line of storms that swept through the Midwest became clearer today. Homes wrecked, cars tossed around like toys, entire neighborhoods leveled.
Another in our series of personal stories on the healthcare law's impact. Tonight, two parents and their long search for coverage for themselves and for their children.
To have somebody actually say, yes, you qualify for this and this is what you're able to get. It's just, we were like, we could actually breathe now. We could, actually say we got insurance, so it was awesome.
Plus, Silicon Valley turns its gaze to the stars. Tech startups are working on commercial space flights, mining the moon, and more.
We're trying to build the iPhone of satellites. The beauty of this approach is that for less than the cost of a single imaging satellite in today's world, we can launch an entire constellation of satellites.
Those are just some of the stories we're covering on tonight's PBS NewsHour.
In a small building outside Washington, D.C., slaves once lived until they were sold.
You're touching the walls where former slaves were held captive. So you feel it. I really think people feel it when they come through here.
I'm Steve Inskeep, a former slave jail that became the office of a civil rights group and a museum, on the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
The primary Thanksgiving dish in most households, of course, includes turkey, another native species of the New World. Most of these stocky birds are raised on factory farms, but a growing number of people are trying to buy them from local and smaller operations. Next, we'll take you to one of these facilities in southern Arizona.
Well, this is my home in northwest Tucson, and I've been raising heritage turkeys this is my 5th year. I'm not exactly sure how many turkeys I have right now, but I think there's about 60. You know you're a true addict when you don't even know how many birds you have. Hey, birdies. I just enjoy the different colors. I enjoy their personality and all the different little sounds they make. Sort of have to learn how to talk turkey because every little sound they make has a meaning to them. And after a while you get to understanding what all those little sounds mean. He's kind of, sort of Not certain what's going on. Sort of a curious sound. He's curious, but he's not certain. Turkeys have a reputation for being stupid, but they're really not very stupid at all. They're very curious birds. All turkeys are actually the same breed. They're just different varieties. The ones that I have now, I have new varieties that I haven't cut before. I actually purchased different breeding stock and different colors from another well-known breeder in the country. So aside from the bourbon red and royal palm, I'll have lilac and lavender, slate, red slate, and penciled palm. So I'm really excited about those birds because they're quite beautiful, and some of them are rare colors that you don't see very often. I would call myself a hobby farm. It's very difficult to really make a profit doing this, and if I didn't enjoy the birds, there wouldn't be any point in keeping any of them regardless. But we do like the meat. The turkeys are very delicious to eat, and I feel like if I'm raising my own birds, then I know that they're fed a really good diet and they're treated humanely. And we also enjoy the eggs from the turkeys. Turkey eggs are actually quite delicious. They're much larger than a chicken egg. The yolks are more firm, and they're not something you can find in a store, so they're considered a gourmet item. Yeah, I know, you want some attention too, right? They get very tame. They do bond to you quite a bit, and they'll sit there and let you pet them for however long you want to. Well, I handled them when they were just babies, because then they get sort of imprinted on you, and they are now a little over 3 months old. You're a pretty boy. I raise up the turkeys for holiday for people. I butcher and process them so they're ready to cook. Usually I try to bring the birds in the night before so they're calmer, and then they get hung upside down in the killing cone, and the jugular vein is slit with a very sharp knife, and the bird hardly feels that at all. Believe it or not, it's so sharp and quick, and they get bled out, and they go into the automatic plucker here, which spins and rinses the feathers off, and that defeathers the birds, and then they're ready to chill down and be gutted for final processing. It takes me about 15 minutes a bird to gut them and clean them. I mean, it's not my favorite job to butcher birds, but I figure as long as we're eating meat and other people are certainly going to eat meat, might as well have them be butchered humanely and in a stress-free fashion. And if people weren't using these birds for meat or whatever, they have to have some benefit to humans, otherwise they tend to go away. And some of these rare breeds are in danger of extinction. I hope that I can continue to afford to keep all the birds I have. I do enjoy them, so it's something I do strive to continue to do.
Pollinators are vital for food production, and while bees get most of the credit for this important job, there are other types of insects or animals that perform this important task. Next, we'll learn about the beauty and the variety of local butterflies. Heather Gray and photojournalist Stephen Riggs have that story.
Many people think of southern Arizona as a diversity hotspot for hummingbirds because of vast ranges of desert and soaring sky islands. According to butterfly curator Elizabeth Willett, this region attracts another group of winged pollinators.
It's also a butterfly hotspot, but it can only stay that hotspot if we keep providing what those organisms need.
Both Tucson Botanical Gardens and Tohono Chul Park intentionally attract native species of butterflies and work to educate the public on how to provide for the butterfly's entire life cycle.
There are literally hundreds of butterfly species in southern Arizona, and we're very fortunate here at Tohono Chul to be attracting more than 30 distinct ones.
The list is long and colorful. The queen and monarch butterflies, pipevine and giant swallowtails, the Gulf fritillary, and many types of sulfur butterflies. They all find food and mating grounds among their favorite native plants.
We try to provide both larval and nectar plants for our butterfly species. Our queen butterflies are quite fond of things like milkweed, and in particular, this is a case where that plant serves both as the larval food plant as well as a nectar-providing plant for the adults. And then our male queen butterflies like our ageratum, which is a beautiful sort of light violet blue flower. Okay, so there's your queen. Yep, there's a couple of them right now.
Males and the females are coming for nectar, but the males get the added benefit of being able to process this compound. They've taken in, digested, it goes through their equivalent of our blood and lymph system, and it's presented in this cup full of cells on the wings, black spot that you can see on the males that you can't see on the females. And then the female senses that, rather, actually, a smell thing. And that's what makes him attractive.
Because of the weather conditions here in southern Arizona, we pretty well have butterflies breeding most times of the year, except in the dead of winter. Most of those spring butterflies will have mated. The females will have laid eggs on the larval plants.
Gulf fritillary larvae exclusively eat passion vine.
The butterfly egg is tiny, and yet we know we got to get a big caterpillar out by the end. So the first thing that comes out is going to be a tiny caterpillar with a tiny mouth, because we're talking exoskeleton, fixed size to the mouth. Then it reaches a certain size, it's stimulated to molt, prepares a new head behind the old one that's a little bit bigger, the bigger mouth, so it can eat more.
After emerging from the pupal stage as adults, butterflies seek sources of food and liquids, like water, nectar from flowers, and sometimes sugars from fallen fruit.
Their proboscis acts like a wick. They also have powerful sucking action. So a combination of liquid being drawn up by capillary action and also the suction from their strong muscles allows them to suck up liquid from lots of different sources, like moist sand or fruit or the nectar from flowers.
The length of butterflies' lives depends on how much energy they stored by munching leaves as caterpillars. Butterflies' energy reserves decline day by day. The sugar they get from nectar only supplements their energy needs. Their lives can also be shortened by predation.
Butterflies are part of a natural food chain. They provide food for a lot of birds. Even lizards will eat butterflies. The best times of the year for butterflies here in southern Arizona seems to be late summer and early fall. So you're looking at late August, September into October, and then again in the spring.
To help visitors learn more about native butterflies, Tohono Chul Park created an identification guide based on a butterfly survey they conducted on their grounds with the Southeastern Arizona Butterfly Association, or SEBA. Willett, a member of SEBA, says the group is a place to connect with other people interested in butterfly conservation.
That's our show. To post a comment on any of these stories or to keep up with the latest news, you may visit our website at azpm.org. I am Jesus Garcia. Thanks for watching.